pick this up where we left off last time. A year or more has passed from the time the IAM would have been voted in. Its structure of appointed officials is in place, and Delta and the IAM have agreed on when and where to meet. So now negotiations can finally start. But here's why you can expect them to take years to complete. First, the process of negotiating is time-consuming. It's not just about lining up calendars. You have to develop and review proposals, analyze the impact of proposed changes, and prepare counter-proposals. The whole process takes time, often a lot of time. Second, negotiating a first contract means you start from scratch. This has never been done before for a work group as large as ours in the airline industry. Delta and the IAM don't have a contract to use as a foundation, like you would in negotiations when you're only negotiating what to change in a contract that already exists. The two parties would start with blank pieces of paper. Everything that goes on that paper would have to be negotiated, and all the choices and language would have to be agreed on too. Third, coming to an agreement on any topic, let alone parts that impact pay, benefits, and work rules, isn't easy. The IAM will have its dream proposal, but Delta will not simply agree to its wish list. Individual flight attendants' unique expectations and the IAM's campaign promises couldn't all be met. Reaching agreement is difficult and often takes a lot of time. Fourth, while both parties must bargain in good faith, there's no deadline to reach a final agreement and no requirement to ever agree to any specific proposal. The Supreme Court has called the negotiations process under the Railway Labor Act almost interminable. So, knowing all this, let's pick a possible contract section to see how negotiations might go. Uniforms seem easy enough. The IAM would prepare its proposal and check with Delta's committee to find a time on everyone's calendar to meet. The negotiations would happen behind closed doors where the union would present the proposal across the table. Both parties would recess shortly after to separate quarters. The proposal would be reviewed by the company's negotiating team that would prepare questions. The two parties would meet again, which could be hours or days later, depending on the complexity of the proposal. The company's questions would be addressed before both parties return home. The company would assess the proposal and prepare a counter-proposal, then set a date for the next meeting, perhaps in a few weeks, where the counter-proposal can be presented. This same cycle can go around and around any number of times. But wait, the union and company may not be able to agree on this section, even though months have dragged by. And that's just one section we're talking about. Union contracts contain 30 or more sections. So they put uniforms aside and move on to something less difficult to agree on, like bulletin boards. Yes, bulletin boards. Union contracts have all sorts of mundane provisions. The size, shape, and location of bulletin boards are negotiated. Is there a glass case? Is it locked? Who keeps the key? Who can post on it? Literally weeks and months and years are typically spent mired in the details, all while no improvements are made. If it's this complicated to agree on the small stuff, it only gets harder when you get down to the business of negotiating what really matters to flight attendants in Delta. Let's take A days, for example. The IAM may propose to take away A days, but how would they do that without bringing back full month reserve? Negotiations that attempt to replace A days with a different reserve system can be complex and lengthy. The IAM would need to be prepared to give up any number of items in other areas that would be important to flight attendants in order to justify such a change. None of this is easy. Unions that represent large numbers of flight attendants spend years in negotiations. So how long would it take a union like the IAM, who doesn't know you, to negotiate a brand new contract? While what could be years pass in negotiations, your colleagues in other divisions would continue the normal annual review process and see quick enhancements based on direct feedback. In the end, what you end up with could be better, worse, or the same as what you already have, because everything about your pay, benefits, and work rules is negotiable. Stay tuned for Negotiations 103 when we talk about why balance in negotiations is so important for Delta flight attendants. Get the facts before you cast your vote. Visit BDeltaBeDifferent.com today.